They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hey guys, what is up? It is Seatin here. Hello and welcome to the Volan Raid Guide. Now, the best way I can possibly describe the Volan fight is kind of like a really advanced version of Dance Dance Revolution. Because, the reason I say this is because the fight follows the exact same pattern every time. Like, he's always going to do X combination of moves in Y order. So he's always going to do the same moves in the same order. It's really, really predictable what is coming. And when you know the fight off by heart, it gets really, really easy. But the trouble is learning to master it in the first place, and that's what this video is to help you with. Now, just going into the Phase 1 mechanics, there are quite a few things to sort of watch out for. So you'll notice you can't actually attack Volan himself. You only have the right and the left legs to deal with. Now, as well as the legs, you'll also have the arms, which aren't attackable, but can be removed by charging up these power cells to the left and right of him. Left for the left arm, right for the right arm. Now, what's going to happen is he's going to fire a burst of energy at one player, which sort of looks like a little ball of lightning. Now, this player needs to run to either of the energy cores, left or right of the Volan. You can see just to the left at the moment. And basically, what's going to happen is you're also going to need to assign 2 DPS to DPS it down. Now, initially what happens is the sealed power cell will not protect the person from the burst of energy. What you'll need to do is you'll need to assign 2 DPS to fairly constantly DPS it down to 10%. Only when it's on 10% it'll pop a blue aura, which will protect the person standing in it from taking heavy damage and getting CC'd by the burst of energy, and it will also charge up that power cell to begin to sort of rip off Volan's right arm plate or left arm plate, depending on the side. Now, basically, you need a total of, I believe it's 4 bursts of energy each side. It might be 5. I know they've changed it fairly recently. So, to pretty much meet the rage timer, you need to assign 1 or 2 DPS to DPS it down, and it needs to DPS down in time for when the burst of energy actually hits the player. You have about a 15-second window before it heals up and you have to DPS it down again, so it's actually fairly hard to get it out of this sync, but usually, you know, if you're a bit unsure on what to do, you're DPS doing it, DPS it down to about 30%, wait for him to do his emote, and then push it that further down to 10%. So that's a fairly straightforward way of doing it. And if your name gets called out, run to the power cell and wait there until you can see the AoE has hit you, and then you can go back to DPSing or doing whatever you were before. Now, the second mechanic in this phase alone is the ads. Now, basically, the ads start off big, and when you kill them, they will turn into 3 smaller ads. Now, these 3 smaller ads, if they're taken under one of the legs, will invoke a large damage debuff on the leg, meaning that the leg is very susceptible. So basically, that's a fairly easy mechanic to deal with. The big ads spawn, you AoE them down, and then you stop when the little ads come. Then the tanks drag them under the leg that needs DPSing the most. Usually we like to start with the right leg, burn that down, and then move on to the left leg. That is the tactic that we use, and it works fairly well. Now, the next mechanic that is exclusive to this first phase is he will shout, "Your cities will fall," and then what he's going to do is he's going to punch the ground 6 times, and you'll notice there are red circles. Now, the tanks need to coordinate between themselves who's going to block what circle. If you don't block the circle, then the raid takes a substantial amount of damage, and usually the raid can survive one of these, but if you let more than one through, they will die. So you essentially, to be safe, you need to coordinate between yourselves to block all of them, and this will take a couple of tries to get into practice. They always go into the same spots, so you can coordinate between yourselves and work that out. So as you can see, he's just gone down onto all 4s and put 6 debuffs on members of the raid. Now, basically, after 30 seconds, those 6 members of the raid are going to explode, dealing 15k damage each if they are not dispelled. But every time they are dispelled, it will deal a total of 15 to 20k damage to the entire raid. So you need one healer, ideally either the Purifier or Defiler cleansing these, and they need to coordinate with the other healers in the raid. You'll notice we use 2 Wardens and 2 Chloromancers to quickly top up the raid. So what happens is it goes similar to like this. They'll be the first to spell, and then we'll quickly top up the raid. When the cleanser sees that the raid is topped up, they will dispel again, and then they have to do this 6 times. So this fight is very, very intensive on both your Wardens and your Chloromancers, so you need to make sure those players are on their A game. The cleanser in the first phase needs to be aware as well that some cleanses may be timed in with the foot stomps, which is sort of the passive AoE damage that he does to the entire raid. So initially he'll do a stomp and then some damage over time. So basically during some cleanses you're going to have to wait for him to stomp, wait for the raid to get topped up while they still have the debuff on them from the stomp, and then cleanse, and then hope that they quickly top up the raid in time for the next stomp. So that's the way that it has to work in phase 1. Now just a final mechanic, this is going to reoccur in the second phase as well. Extinction awaits you. You will get a red bubble around you and missiles will be fired at you. You basically need to spread out, or you're going to deal additional damage to people with if they're stacked up, and also people are going to be knocked back, which in phase 1 isn't too much of a problem, but in phase 2, when this mechanic does reoccur, it will be. So when phase 2 comes, everybody goes to sort of the jump pad, which will port you up, as you just saw then, and then you are on the platforms, and this is the sort of final phase of Volan. Now there are a total of 4 platforms, and every platform has a floating depleted shield matrix. Now this shield has a total of 100,000 health and will provide a shield when fully healed to prevent your entire raid being one shot from an ability that Volan casts when he emotes Witness True Power, which will come later on. So basically, as you've just noticed there, as soon as he finishes his laser beam and you're on the first platform, or platform 1 as we like to call it, then you hop over to platform 2, which is the platform that we're on. So as soon as he's finished that, he's going to swipe platforms 1 and 4. We go round sort of clockwise with the platforms in the terms of numbering that we do. Now after the purple AoE, which I'll talk about in a bit, has gone back into the center of the platform, so it's disappeared, people will need to get to their assigned platforms. You're going to need to assign people platforms, just as a heads up for any raid leaders looking to coordinate, and people are going to need to spread out on the platforms, or else if they're stacked up, unless they're warriors with Wear the Mountain, you'll notice we got a few warriors stacked up there because they have Wear the Mountain, so they're immune to knockback. So if any other people are stacked up, they'll be knocked off the platforms and instantly die when they hit the ground. So after he's done that, what you'll need to do is then you'll all need to get back to platform number 2 once you've survived the extinction. There's going to be a bit of heavy AoE healing during that extinction and missiles because you've got to top everyone up quickly. And then you stack up on platform 2, and then the dispelling mechanic is back. So as well as the standard, well, the damage from dispelling, you've also got the sort of residue damage from his laser beam that he's doing, and as soon as he has finished casting his laser beam, he is going to swipe the opposite sides, so 2 and 3, so you have to get back to platform number 1. As you can see, just made it in the nick of time. So shortly after he's done this, he is going to do his Witness True Power, which is the ability that I talked about earlier. So all the healers need to quickly switch to the shield matrix and top it up. When initially going on the platform, healers like the Chloromancer and the Purifier and Defiler, they should have been focusing on healing the depleted shield matrix, while the Wardens focused on getting the raid up initially. So after you survive the Witness True Power, he's going to sort of fall down, and this gives you about 20 seconds free nuke, essentially. Now, you have 2 ways that you can nuke him. You can either jump on his back, or you can nuke him from just the normal position, so anywhere you like. Now, there is a bit of a con to jumping on his back, and that is that you need to get off when his debuff on him reaches 5 seconds, so that'll be the timer, and you need to run off his left arm back onto platform number 2. If you don't get off him in time, he will throw you off and down onto the ground, and you will die, so you need to be fairly sharp if you're going to do that. So after he's done that, everybody gets back to platform number 1. Healers in that phase should have been healing the shield matrix while there was no damage. damage, and another round of cleansing starts. So we're just spam healing the raid at the moment while getting the cleansing done. We pop a fair few cooldowns here because we know there isn't sort of much else to AoE heal for like a minute or two. That is as intensive as the healing at the moment is. So after he's done his laser beams on platform 2 and 3, you hop back to platform and number 2 while he swipes 1 and 4, and then you just AoE heal up. You'll notice I'm going to go on to explain this mechanic. It's been happening since the start of this phase. Basically, he'll sort of lift his hands in the air and it'll do an expanding purple circle. The purple circle hits on the first tick out and the first tick inwards. If you're standing directly in the middle of the platform or at the edge, you can possibly take a double tick, and considering this purple circle does about 23k damage, if you are standing in the center or at the edge, you will run the risk of being one shot. So after that purple circle, you'll see we went to our original platforms again, and then straight after this mechanic, there is no cleansing this time. It is go on to the shield matrix and heal it up because he's emoting witness true power again. So heal that shield matrix up to full health, get the shield, and then he'll go down again, and then it's time for another burn phase / healers go on to healing up the next cell. So it's fairly straightforward, that one. You just need to be aware, and remember, as I said, guys, he always follows the exact same pattern, so you just need to learn this fight off by heart, and you're golden. So a couple more mechanics I just want to quickly talk about and go over is at the back of every platform, occasionally, several wisps are going to spawn. Now, if any DPS or healers get near these wisps, they're going to be one-shot by them. Now, this is kind of the tank's job and responsibility in the second phase, because they won't be tanking Volan, there is nothing to tank. So they basically need to go around, hit all these wisps, explode them and kill them, and literally one hit, and then they're dead, and get healed up, and then go back and hit some more wisps. So that's pretty much their job for this phase. So if you're tanking, you know, it's really bloody straightforward. Just stick with the group, avoid getting hit by the laser or by the one-shot arm, and just kind of, you have to maneuver around outside of the raid group, just being aware of, you know, at what time he's going to use what mechanic, etc. So also, on the platforms, you're going to notice occasionally expanding plants are going to spawn. Now, if you get caught in the AoE of these plants, it's going to deal a shit ton of damage, which during, for example, a cleansing phase will kill you. Like, if you're standing in the AoE of the plants during a cleansing phase, or for example, like we have now, an expanding circle phase, and you get an unlucky circle tick with a plant tick, it will kill you. And also, standing in these plants reduces your damage and healing and gives you a nasty debuff. So essentially, guys, just don't do it. So as you can see, after hopping to platform 4 to avoid the swipe, I am back on platform 3 now for the third Extinction awaits you. Now on this one, what we do is we rotate all the groups round 1 so that everyone can make it back to platform 3 very easily. For the third witness true power, where we need to quickly heal up the shield matrix to avoid, ensure that nobody dies, basically. So as you can see, it looks like we got the shield matrix just in the nick of time there. I managed to keep everyone alive, so that is pretty awesome. Now, usually at this point, he's fairly close to enrage. This is usually like the final burn on him. So for the last one, what we do is whenever we get to this one and he's sort of below 10%, we say everybody on the back of him and just nuke his head like absolutely crazy with the damage increase. As you can see at the moment, you know, it's a fairly sizable damage increase of about 250%. So if you can manage to jump on his head during these phases, it is usually worth it. So that is pretty much it for the fight, guys. It's all about really learning the fight and what he's going to do when. And once you get to grips with that, it's extremely easy to do. It's very easy to predict. It's just all about learning his patterns, dealing with them, learning, as example, for a warden when to save your cooldowns, and, you know, you've got to kill. So that is it for the guide, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two about Volan. It's essentially all about learning the fight. He's very, very predictable in what he does, and learning how to manage pretty much everything. This won't be a fight that you'll get up to and burn through in like an hour or two. It unfortunately does take a bit of own personal repetition to actually get into the swing of things for your raid. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed the guide and learned a thing or two. I think there is some definite valuable information in here. If I've left anything out or you have anything to add, any pro tips, please do let me know, and I'll be sure to add them in the description of the video or as little pop-ups on the video. Thank you once again for watching, guys, and take care.